I'm with the Racine Coalition for Peace and Justice. This event is being amplified. We have listening devices if anyone requires that. This event is sponsored by the Racine Coalition Central America Solidarity Coalition, the Racine Coalition for Peace and Justice, and the Social Justice Committee of Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. We are grateful to the people of Olympia Brown for their hospitality and for the use of their facilities. Following our presentation, you are invited to meet our speaker and enjoy a lunch downstairs in the basement of the church. And I should mention that that's where the bathrooms are located, in the basement. Our sponsors for this afternoon are local organizations that wish to see the United States government treat justly all people who live within its boundaries and also all peoples and nations of the world. We believe that the United States government does not always exercise its vast power justly. We recognize, in fact, that some of our nearest neighbors have been the victims and still are of U.S. injustice, abuse, and neglect. For example, Puerto Rico is still a colony of the United States. For another example, the famous Mexican complaint, which you've all heard, I'm sure, goes, "Poor Mexico, so far from God, so close to the United States." But it is perhaps the case of Cuba that is the most flagrant, outrageous, and persistent example of U.S. ongoing injustice. And so today, we are honored and privileged to have one of the wisest and best informed resources available to clarify the issues of Cuban-U.S. relations. Luis Barrios is also one of the most qualified, even credentialed, to address this topic. He was born in Puerto Rico. He is currently a professor at the City University of New York. He is a priest of the Episcopal Church. He's a newspaper columnist, community organizer, and an activist with Pastors for Peace, School of the Americas Watch, and other efforts on behalf of social justice. He is with us today in connection with the current Pastors for Peace Caravan to Cuba, an effort, by the way, that needs regular support, and we will be asking for your generosity. There can be no better way, I suggest, for you to spend the next hour than to spend it right here. Please welcome Father Luis Barrios.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes. It's good to be here. Thank you for the welcoming. Thank you for the hospitality. Usually we do this in the evening, so coming together during this time is like a miracle. Okay. But the person who organized this told me you're going to meet a lot of intelligent, good-looking people, and he was right. Thank you for all this way that you put things together, especially the issue of solidarity. That for us is extremely important. Like we already say, I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm so happy to see this sign here, because I always bring together Cuba and Puerto Rico. It's a very strong point about Cuba and Puerto Rico, saying that it's the the two wings of a bird. You need the two of them to fly. Okay? But one is in captivity, which is my country. But I'm here today to share some information about what's going on with Cuba. But not only to share that information, also to agitate a little to see what else we can do. And then to give some kind of continuity, because we always like to find a way how to bring people to Cuba, because it's much better learning from them than about them. And to learn from them, you have to go there. Probably, if you happen to be one of those that you already been there, so you need to go back, because Cuba is a revolution in motion. These people are constantly reinventing themselves. That's why there's a very interesting office in the Pentagon to deal with Cuban issues. And the complaint that they have is, when we spend 6 or 8 months learning how is that Cubans are doing things, they change the things. So that way you have to start again, relearning and relearning and relearning. That's why they're still there. Just in case you're wondering, how is that this small island there to challenge this powerful big country? Because you never underestimate people's capacity to fight back. This community have a lot of legacy, history about resistance. So I'm just adding that you're not the only one. There's also other people trying to make sense of all this. So, because I'm going to go very specific into the question, let me start with the issue that we are Passion for Peace. The strong component that we like to utilize is raising consciousness. I don't know if you had that opportunity to read Paulo Freire's book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is an excellent book. And it's about that. It's about this awakening of consciousness. But to do this, you need to learn how to share information. And you know that one of the issues that people around the world make fun of us is that we in the U.S., we are very ignorant people. And I hate that. But they're right. Okay? It's a reality. We have no idea what's going on in our country. Forget about when we go into asking about another country. I've been teaching for 30 years in the City University of New York. And it doesn't matter what country I'm going to talk, I always need to bring a map. People are going to get lost. We're not really too good. It happened the same if you have a USA map and you start talking about states. People get lost trying to find where is something that we call Milwaukee. Okay? So, saying that, there are things that I understand we need to highlight before we go very specific into the Cuban reality. One is the so-called foundation of this country. And I say the so-called because we used to have people here, the original people, Native Americans, but we eliminate them. And what is very interesting is that the 10 top history books of the U.S. history, they all have the same name, American history, which is wrong because this is not America. This is the U.S. that happened to be in the America continent. I am an American because I was born in the okay? You are American. But to claim that we are the only American, that is wrong. Okay, Canadians are Americans. Mexicans are Americans. Cubans are American. We are Americans, which is something very important. But in the foundation of this country, immediately something came out. Okay? How can we become one of these empires that we can have control of other people? So they started cultivating that kind of ideology until in the 19th century, someone came up with the Monroe Doctrine. You heard about the Monroe Doctrine? Someone knows what the Monroe Doctrine is? Who was it? Yes?
James Monroe basically told Europe, see the heck out of America.
Ooh.
All of America.
That is a very interesting message. Listen, European people. Don't you dare coming into this part of the world doing what you know how to do, colonizing, doing regime change, stealing resources, and doing all that kind of stuff that oppress people. Why we are not going to allow you to do it? Because we're going to do it. It's not that we are against colonizing. It's not that we are against regime change. It's not that we are against stealing resources. It's that we are going to be the one doing that. And from that moment, the Monroe Doctrine officially declared that Latin America is the backyard of the U.S. That do not sound good. That is not a good foundation for relationship. That is not a good invitation to how it is that we're going to relate with each other. So I'm emphasizing this because it was like an invisible in the pronunciation of that, but it was there, but it was not until Trump came to power that he there and his people, especially Baltimore, there to say, we going back to the Monroe Doctrine because Latin America belongs to us. That is clear. That's what I really appreciate. That is something that I appreciate from this administration. These people are very clear. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's not doing something new. He never lied to us that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He lied about something else, but not about it. And I really appreciate your honesty because that way I know how to fight back. I get a little confused when people go into washy-washy, okay? I always remember one occasion that Hillary Clinton in New York said, I'm a strong supporter of LGBTQ rights. Oh, we got one in our side. We've been waiting. That do not mean that I believe in it. So what the hell is this? Okay. So we were like, I'm going to be fishing in the two sides. Those who support and those who do not support. I hate that. Take side. When it comes to deal with justice, there is no space for neutrality. Because neutrality, you already took side. So you have the Monroe Doctrine. We're going to steal, we're going to do regime change, we're going to colonize country and whatever else is there. We're going to apply this with the dollar policy, 19th century. Dollar policy is a capitalist society. And in a capitalist society, money is more important than people. You need to understand that. You don't like it, change it. But you need to understand that because it's a capitalist society, we like to produce money. If we are going to build a hospital, it's not because we care about providing medical services. It's because we care about making money by selling something that we call earth. Okay? Some people are going to take what we're going to give them, and some people are going to give us a hard time. You see the resistance in that museum that you have here? It's so beautiful. Very powerful. Congratulations. The historical memory. Okay. So they say, what are we going to do with those people who do not listen to what we want them to do? Oh, there comes another doctrine. The doctrine of the big stick. This is Daddy. You do not behave. I'm going to go against you. Okay? So you better do things the way I want. If not, I'm going to do exactly what they did to Jacobo Alves in 1954 in Guatemala. Regime change immediately. Just because he wanted to implement a democratic government in favor of the people. There's no way you can do some kind of thing like that without going against rich people. Okay? So there's always, in the case of justice, you try to implement justice, someone's not going to be happy. We understand that. So let's see how can we do this to benefit the majority of the people. But then comes something that is extremely important to understand. Yeah, we had the Monroe Doctrine, we had the dollar policy, we had the doctrine of the big stick. Do you know that these people really hate feeling guilty? Because stealing what belongs to someone, taking the government that they elected, okay, punishing them. Oh God, I hate this, I don't want to feel guilty. Someone said, I have a solution. What's the solution? Manifest destiny. And what the hell is manifest destiny? Oh, manifest destiny, as someone knows. Go on.
The idea that the United States is destined to rule the world.
Louder, please, John. I can't hear you.
It's the idea that the United States is destined to rule the world.
By whom?
By God.
Oh, which people in the United States?
No, who?
God.
By God!
That's right, God.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
In other words, my brothers and sisters, it's not that we like to colonize. No, don't take it wrong. It's not that we like to kill people. It's not that we like to do regime change. It's not that we like to build blockade. It's not that we like to enslave. No. It's that God told us, you better do this. And when God told you to do something, you don't want to be in trouble? Do it. So why we do it? Not because we want it. It's because God told us that we have to do it. Oh, God. Looking for an excuse. This is one of the most powerful. Blaming God. No wonder, including court, we can say, in God we trust. Okay? Including the currency, in God we trust. We always get God in the middle of whatever we're going to do. I always remember in the New York State, when Pataki came to power, the governor, very reactionary guy, for the first time, because they do not open this whole section there, they don't pray. They have to pray. I have no idea. I'm a priest. I always tell people, pray at home. Don't bring that thing here. Okay? First, because not everybody likes to pray. And we never pray the same way. So do your thing with God there, I do my thing there, and let's sit down here to implement justice. Well, it was an accident with the chaplain, so 2.5 hours, we're not going to start without the prayer. Okay, they wait for 2.5 hours. When the pastor got there, finished the prayer, Pataki brought his first political project. He brought back the penalty. We've been waiting here for a prayer, and from all the things that you can bring for the state of New York, the first thing that you bring is a death penalty. So what the hell is wrong with you, my friend? Okay? You see, that's where sometimes I'm scared about people, the way they pray. Okay? I get a little scared. Okay, so with the Trump administration, you need to understand this. With more energy, more intensification, Trump brings something that we've been calling the recolonization of Latin America. In some way, the other administration, including Obama, Bush, Clinton, okay, they neglected. And all these countries started moving to the left. Check the history there. They started moving, okay? And then Trump comes with a very serious concern and a very reactionary agenda. We need to recolonize Latin America. I'm emphasizing this so you can understand why this kind of treatment, not just to Cuba, Venezuela and Nicaragua. These are the three countries that, for him, is ahead. And we need to get rid of this government. Doesn't matter that they have support from the people. Saying this, he brings back Article 3 from the Burton 1996 law. The Burton first came the 37, 1994. 2 weeks ago, he brought back also the 37. He went into intensifying the travel ban. Okay? But before that, he did the Article 3 from the Burton. But first came 1994, the 37. We say, we need to stop people in the U.S. going to Cuba and doing business with Cuba from the U.S. We need to isolate people from here and from there so they do not have any communication. It's too dangerous to see what those people are doing in Cuba. Too dangerous because people can come back saying, oh, I want that. Okay. Oh, we can do that much better in my country. So let's bring that to the U.S. Okay. So isolate. But because it was not being so effective, then in 1996, Herb Burton got together and said, what about if we penalize any country? This is the USA Congress making decisions that including the United Nations do not dare to agree. It's the USA Congress. This is how this imperialistic agenda can go. That we can make decisions for the other countries, doesn't matter where they are. And if you do business with Cuba, we're going to go against you. We saw this very interesting. One occasion that we were trying to bring from Germany medical computers into Cuba. Okay. Everything was going okay until someone became aware that those computers have a US chip inside, and just with one single thing, you're not supposed to send that to Cuba, or they stop all the computers. And you can give explanation how is that they're going to use this for medical treatment. We don't care. The law, the Herb Burton law say you're not supposed to do that. So they're not bringing back the whole law, but Article 3, which is the big issue of relating with Cuba, that Cuba needs to go into the international market, buying something that they need to eat or buying medication. These are the two things that really challenge them. So what the U.S. is doing is blocking the other country from providing this to Cuba. The issue with Venezuela is because Venezuela got into a negotiation with Cuba. Cuba, you do not have enough money to pay? No. Okay, so let's make a fair business here. I need medical doctor. How many you need? I need 3,000. Okay, so send me 3,000 doctors, and I'm going to give you oil and petroleum. So the U.S. need to stop this. Okay, and they went very strong against Venezuela. That's why Venezuela right now also have a blockade. That kind of relationship needs to stop because it's not good for the interests of U.S. imperialism. Okay, that is the hard word. That is the Torricelli, what came out 3 weeks ago, telling us you can't travel to Cuba. Well, let me tell you something that we are doing right now with Pastor Obi. We're going back to what we've been saying for the last 29 and this 30 caravan. We learned from our founder, Lucia Walker, Reverend Lucia Walker. Love is our license. So when you have to see the faces of these officers when they say, "Where's your license? You coming from Cuba? Yeah. Where's your license?" They say, "Oh, you want to see my license?" Love is my license. I went there to bring love and to get love. Oh, that's not enough. Oh, for us is what we need. Do whatever you have to do. They will try to intimidate us. No. Okay. So this particular project is a civil disobedience project. We understand that we're breaking the law. Okay? They're not going to do nothing. First time, 1992. The first time that I heard, if you travel to Cuba without a license, it's $250,000 fine and 5 years of prison. That was the first time, 1992. And I always challenge them, asking them, say, "Okay, when the hell are you going to arrest me? I've been waiting." And you think we're going to arrest you? You people are waiting that we're going to start arresting you and you're going to make a political campaign against us. I said, you got that right. We've been waiting. Because once they arrest one, they need to arrest everybody else. And I'm not really sure how many of you been in Cuba with us, Pastor Ortiz. There's someone here? Okay. They're going to throw everybody. And we have a list that is about 7,000 people. They're not going to arrest anybody. And by the way, in one occasion I was asking one of the officers there, "So why you say this and you're not going to do it?" He said, "Well, we just try to discourage you from going there. We try to intimidate you. We know that that's not going to work, but we have to mention." Okay, well, it's not going to work with us. So I don't know if with someone else that is going to work. The issue of the United Nations in this particular context is very interesting. You know that after the Soviet Union collapsed, practically the U.S. became unilateral in this political, economic, and military power. Right now, they're losing territory. Okay? On another occasion, we talk about that. So they know that. But what I'm trying to go with the United Nations is the issue that, let's say last year, vote. 167 countries say the blockade is not only illegal, it's immoral. What you're doing to that country. So you know that this is the longest blockade in world history? From the beginning, it was the same. So you have 167 countries say, get rid of that blockade. 2 countries say the blockade stay. The US and Israel. Another day we talk about that very distinct relationship between these 2 countries. Okay? So the USA Congress immediately tell the United Nations, mind your own business. Hello? This is a country not obeying, not following what the United Nations is saying. This is an international forum that was created with this kind of intention, so we can bring harmony, good relationship between countries, and you, in a unilateral position, tell the rest of the world, mind your own business. We're not going to follow what you want. And that's the position that they have. We understand that Cuba is a threat to us. I used to say no. That's not correct. That's what I know. But then I started trying to understand. My dear brothers and sisters, Cuba is a threat to the US. First, it's a socialist project. Socialism is not about money, it's about people. Okay? Second, how is that this small island is the #1 country in the whole world with more medical doctors per capita? How is that this is the #1 country in the whole world with more teachers, schools per capita? Once you start listening to this, that's when you say, okay, something is going on here. How is that a country like the US has been blocking Cuba for more than 60 years, harassing, going inside doing terrorist action that until this day the number goes over 4,000 people dead. That's more than what we had in the Twin Towers. More people. Okay? Financing, training, protecting terrorists to go inside Cuba. How is that we've been doing all this and from nowhere? I always remember that conversation between Fidel and Lucio. Fidel was giving a speech, and then he went to talk about the School of the America. School of the America. The Latin American School of Medicine. And he turned around and looked at Lucio and said, "Do we have students from the US in Iran?" He said, "No." You think it's possible to raise it? I don't know. Let's work on that. This is 7 years. A student from the US get a complete package that is going to pay tuition, accommodation, the 3 meals, books, uniform, and a stipend for 7 years. With a moral contract, not a legal contract. What is the moral contract? We are expecting that when you become a medical doctor, you do not commercialize with this career. Why is moral? They don't have any control. You do whatever you want to do. Okay? Right now we have here in the US 175 graduates from Cuba, which is something very interesting. We've been waiting that all these reactionary people from any political party can denounce this and stop this. I've been talking, let's say, for example, Bob Melendez, okay, a Cuban exile reactionary against the Cuban revolution, against the Cuban people living there. He said, "Bob, why you don't say something about ELAN, the medical school?" He said, "Luis, there is nothing bad to say about that, and I don't want to say anything good about you." Oh, that's very interesting. Can you imagine? Because these kids that we send there, it's not that they do not have the capacity, it's that they never going to get into a medical school They never, but it's not about capacity. Most of them, blacks and Latino. Most of them, women. That's a reality that we face it. Two things when they coming back. Before they graduate, there's a demand for this medical doctor in the U.S. They want them. Because the training in Cuba, in medical school for those that they send them back to us, is, look at this, in the 4th year, that's when you're going to see a patient in the U.S. You know when you see a patient in Cuba? The same week you start. And you say, but I'm not a doctor, so what the hell I'm going to do is, in that emergency room, say, do you know how to listen to people? Look at this emergency room. People screaming here. People are in pain. People are desperate. People are hopeless. Do you know how to talk? Yes. Do you know how to get close to people? Yes. Can you produce hope in the middle of the pain? Yes. You are a medical doctor. You started your career today. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. And from there they go on and on until they do exactly what a medical doctor is supposed to do in addition to that. Make eye contact, talk to people, and do exactly what my grandmother used to tell me when I was growing up with her. You don't know what to say when people are in pain? Start hugging and kissing. Connect. Connect. Connect with people. And that's about this particular Cuban revolution. What can you do to protect Cuba from these atrocities that are coming from the USA government? You can do a lot. First, you need to understand that the whole campaign is not about communism. It's not about a socialist revolution. It's about a country that dare to tell the U.S., mind your own business, and you're not going to tell us what we're supposed to do, because we do not tell you what to do. So why the hell you need to come here and telling us what we're supposed to do? Okay? Cuba can wake up today and say, I'm not changing my communist project or my socialist project, but I'm going to let you, USA government, do whatever you want to do. The U.S. do not interfere with you anymore. That's the whole issue. Check every single country that surrendered to the USA foreign policy, they don't have problems. I don't know the intensity of the news against Venezuela here, okay? 400,000 and went up to 600,000 Venezuelan people got out of Venezuela, moving into Colombia. Oh, that was all over the places. He said, well, you have a country with 67 million people, and now they're sending 600,000 people from Venezuela to Colombia. You know when Colombia just shut up and said nothing? When the Venezuelan government said, listen, stop your nonsense. We have 6 million Colombians living in Venezuela. You want them back? No, so shut up. That was the end of the issue. 6 million! And you're complaining because 600,000 Venezuelans went there. In the middle of all this, 1 million Puerto Ricans came out of Puerto Rico after Maria. And it's not in the media. That's when you say, okay, what's going on here? Why something can be highlighted and something in other places is not being highlighted? How is that we have close to 4 million people living in Puerto Rico and 4 million people from Puerto Rico living in the U.S.? of the population out of the country, and nobody cares about that. That's not in the video. That's when you get suspicious. And what's going on that they highlighted? That has always been the issue. Analyze very strong how Saddam Hussein was created by the USA foreign policy. This is our baby, okay? This is the guy that we're going to work on until he turned around against USA foreign policy. From freedom fighter, he became a terrorist. Check how Osama bin Laden was created. Right? Saddam to go against the Ayatollah Khomeini, and they brought that stupid war between Iran and Iraq. We gave Saddam all kind of weapons. Yes, he used to have chemical weapons. We gave him the weapons that he used against his people. He killed his people. However, when it was time for the Security Council at the United Nations to evaluate the case, who vetoed that investigation? The US. We protect Saddam Hussein. We did a cover-up on that assassination. That's why we never wanted Saddam Hussein to go into the International Criminal Court, because he was going to say everything there. Keep it inside. Osama bin Laden to fight those Soviets in Afghanistan. This is our man, Osama bin Laden. And we train him, we prepare him, we send him. He did the dirty job. He was killing people for us. When he turned around against the US, from a freedom fighter, he became a terrorist. Manuel Noriega in Panama. Oh, he was our baby. He was a member of the CIA. In the payroll, George Bush's father recruited him until he went against us. Then we want everybody to know that he was a drug dealer. He was a drug dealer when we hired him. Where I'm going with this, that we do not care about democracy. We do not care about human rights. But we're going to tell you that that is the issue. We need to interfere in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Nicaragua, because we are concerned about democracy, human rights. Why we are concerned about democracy and human rights? Let's start doing something here. How is that we still have the electoral colleges making a decision who is the president of the United States? Why is that you make me believe that I'm voting for the president when I'm not voting for the president? This is one of the most obsolete, anti-democratic political electoral systems. And we like to go all over the places giving lectures about democracy. We better clean the dirty clothes that we have before we try to go out giving lectures to all the people. Okay? My brothers and sisters, the Cuban people want to continue having a relationship with the people in the United States. Okay? They have a very serious problem with the USA government. They don't have a problem with you. Because you also have a problem with the USA government. You check very carefully, you have a problem. So, but the relationship between people and people, that now the Herb Burton is attacking, that's where we go. The travel ban, that was the number one category to travel, people to people. That's why Trump administration eliminated it. We don't want any relationship between people and people. Okay. We don't want it. I'm going to open the floor to get specific questions, but I want to open, let me say this before I open it. I don't want you to get the wrong impression that I'm trying to say that Cuba is a paradise. No. I'm trying to tell you that Cuba is not hell. Okay? It's not paradise. Neither hell. The way USA foreign policy is trying to portray Cuba is that it's hell. It's not hell. Okay? It's what some people call a third world country, poor country, with a lot of dignity and integrity. A friend of mine went with a delegation of doctors to Cuba in the countryside. He said, Luis, I just want to see how far the revolution got inside that place. And I see all the agriculture and people have something to eat. And I say, I'm thirsty. Can someone give me water? And this guy told his daughter, take him to the house and give him water. He said, when I got there, this is a house that the floor of the house is the ground of the floor there. Okay? Very poor people. He said, you know, this girl spent some time with a paper doing the cup. You know, when we do a cup with paper, okay? And once she did it, she put the water there and give it to him. And I was so happy. And I said, thank you. She gave me a smile. And she had braces. They said, this is incredible. How the medical services got here so far. And I was looking at something else. Priorities. Okay? Priorities, which is very important. Questions? Yes.
You talked about Cuba a lot. Can you wait for a mic?
Oh.
I got it.
Oh.
My question has to do with those people, and I think they were all men that were in Cuba in these hotels, and they were being, there was some kind of electrical kind of thing that was going on, and they were getting ill, and they had to come home. I was wondering if you knew anything about that. It's just bizarre, and I mean, listening to you, it makes me think, but it's just, I don't know if you know anything about that. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Oh, really? Okay.
There was a story all over our news.
Yeah.
There was a story all over our news about these diplomats, I think you would say.
Oh,
And they had been attacked by sonic weapons,
Yeah.
so-called attack, and that's what she's talking about.
Okay, I got it. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
The Cuban government, well, that was an excuse for the Trump administration to say, I'm going to withdraw all these personnel from the U.S. embassy, that with the opening between Obama and Castro, Raúl, they had about 300. But then you have to balance the same amount in Washington. So they need to get rid of the Cuban personnel in Washington. But you need to have an excuse. So if I reduce the one in La Habana to 20, then you have to reduce. I don't have to give any explanation. Automatically you have to do it. That was the whole point there. The Cuban government invited the FBI to run an investigation. They went 4 times. Nothing. That was not published. Okay? It's on that category that Trump liked to use, fake news. Okay? To make a point of justice, you don't need to lie. But some people can do that. Okay? There's a course that I teach at the university, the social construction of crime. Because it's based on perception. You do the same with the media. The social construction of information. Especially if you had all these think tanks that we've been paying so they can produce ideas, so we can market idea about something else. You remember when Forbes, the magazine, said that Fidel Castro had $500 million in a bank in Europe? They went to talk to Fidel and said, I was not aware that I had all that money there. I don't know why they know I had that money there, because I'm not thinking about traveling out of the country. But are you sure? They said, yeah, they had the account and everything. Okay, so he wanted to say, okay, Red Cross, I'm giving you 100 million. Go there and get the money. Boy Scout, I'm going to give you, that was a scandal. Literally, people went to get the money. If I had that money there, that money, I don't want it. Give it to the people. And they have to say, there's no money here. Campaign, you see? It's a very interesting campaign. And it's very powerful. You see this issue of Trump saying that all these Mexicans are rapists and they come here. They said, it's not based on facts, but they said believe in the US right now that we do not have enough jobs because immigrants are the ones taking the jobs. That's not correct. Do you know why we do not have, we are one of the richest countries in the world. Do you know why we do not have enough jobs? We have the capacity as a capitalist economy to produce not 1, 2, or 3 jobs for every single person. Why is that we do not have enough? Because this is a capitalist society. In a capitalist society, you need to create, with all intention, unemployment. Because with unemployment, you get 2 things. One is, you decrease the salaries. And 2, you get people into competition because you have the job, but I have 200 people behind you, so don't fool around with me. I fire you in 3 seconds I have someone. You need to take all the nonsense that I give you in this job. We have the capacity to have the job. We're not going to do it. That's the number 1 reason. Because it's a capitalist society. The second reason is all these corporations going into 3rd world countries, like Haiti. Do you know this is slavery in the 21st century? Okay? Do you know that in Haiti, workers, they spend 12 hours inside those factories? 12 hours, 6 days a week. Any idea what is the salary for 12 hours a day? $4 a day. Why? It's not a scandal. A country that we talk so much about God, about justice, about dignity. That is a shame. Why is that we don't fix that? Especially because then those corporations, we don't have any jurisdiction to force them with the label laws from the US. And those countries there, they have those corrupt government that they allow that to happen. But in the middle of that are all these people. But that is not it. So you always need to use, not being paranoid, no. I'm a forensic psychologist. That's what I teach. So I always tell people, paranoia is when someone creates something that is not real. Okay? This is real. We're dealing with something that is real. So instead of saying, I need to be a little paranoid, no, you say, I'm going to deal with the hermeneutic of suspicious. That before I say yes, I'm going to check. Before I say no, I'm going to check, especially when it comes to dealing with news and all this yellow journalism that we have in this country. Another question? Yes, sir.
That's all right. Well, thank you for your very interesting and passionate, speech about Cuba. I'm a professor here at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, and I teach political science. And past January, I took some of my students to Santiago, Cuba.
Oh, I like Santiago.
So it was the first time I was taking students there. I've been there myself 2 times before on conferences, and then once to Havana. So I kind of share everything that you just talked about. I would like to give an update, not an update, but after diplomats were suspected of being attacked, at the American embassy in Havana. What the U.S. did, they commissioned people to medical doctors to produce a report. And that report established that there were problems. So that was the official report that was published by the U.S. government. But a lot of other doctors from the U.S., from Germany, and a few other countries, they examined the report that was published in the the American Journal of Medicine, all right? And they identified that it was very flawed and that it was just not tenable. So they dismissed the report. But that report was not published. I mean, the counter report, was not published the way the report itself was published. So the news was already all over the place. The public opinion had already kind of swallowed this idea that the Cubans were attacking the Americans at the embassy. So that's something that I would like to point out quickly. The other thing that I would like to say is, recently, there was, when they were rewriting the Constitution in Cuba, there was a clause about gays and lesbians, and the government wanted officially to recognize the possibility of gays getting married. And then there was a big pushback, from the evangelical community.
Oh, yeah.
So since Cuba opened up, more evangelical churches have mushroomed in Cuba, and I would like to know your assessment of this. Since you're a pastor yourself, since you go to Cuba and you know Cuba and know the work that they are doing in very difficult circumstances, I would like to know what you think about this big trend across Latin America. Actually, because the election of Bolsonaro also in Brazil is related to that. So what I would call the penetration of Latin America, by evangelical churches and the messages that they are really spreading across the continent.
Well, thank you. It's not new. The number one group that the USA foreign policy is been using in the recolonization of Latin America is the church. It's more powerful with the evangelical church coming from the US. This is how they filtrate most of the people who want to do some kind of political spying work in a lot of countries. This has been one of the big issues in Cuba, because every single denomination, religious denomination that we have here, you see that also in Cuba. The issue, the campaign with the new constitution, it was very interesting with the new constitution. First, the Congress is not the one, it's the people. That's a very interesting democratic exercise. Okay? So close to 7 million people participated in the discussion. They have more than 200,000. The hot issue was same-sex marriage. Listen, I went there last year and I found myself in the middle of this and so what was going on? Oh, this is the article that is hitting very strong because it's coming from the government. The government is supporting that. At that moment was Raul. His daughter is openly gay. She ran the whole campaign for LGBTQ rights, and she constantly comes to the United Nations, and she is very interested in working in Latin American issues, including that it is the only country in this hemisphere that the change of gender is free in Cuba, and it's allowed. Okay? But that article. Then I saw all the campaign coming from churches in the U.S. saying, if you dare to support this, we now sending money to your church there in Cuba. So this group of people, most of them from the evangelical approach, and I'm saying most of them from the evangelical because also Catholics were there in that particular situation, that no, it was so difficult to help them, similar to what's going on here, to place the marriage in a civil right or legal perspective. Keep religion out of this. In your church, if you do not want to marry them, do not marry them. Okay? But this is a right that people have. And this is how we were educating there and also here. Because I've been doing same-sex blessing since 1990. By the way, that was the first time the bishop suspended me for doing same-sex blessing, 1990 in the South Bronx. Anybody still doing it? I don't give it. Whatever you want. Okay? I'm open to challenge.
Would you tell us how we can support the work of Pastors for Peace while I send a hat around?
Yeah, you can support in so many different ways. But let me tell you something. I'm not really sure if you know the campaign that the IRS got against us. You know that in this country, you can skip going to prison for killing, drugs, and whatever. Not for having problem with the IRS, including Al Capone. Check. That's how he got in prison. Put it around with the IRS. So the IRS target us, took away the 501c, and all the revenues, our revenue went half. So we've been struggling for the last 3.5 years, and one of the ways you can help is with your donations. Okay? Means a lot to us, so we can continue this campaign. I'm the president of the board of directors. I do a volunteer job, but we have 4 or 5 people in the office that do all the work because it's not only Cuba. Okay, so we've been doing a lot of work there. So that is the most hated one. Just trust us. Check what we do. Your money is in good hands. Okay? Believe me when I say this. Keep us moving. It's a capitalist country. Everything here is about money. We need to pay rent. We need to pay those salaries. And there's a lot of expenses that we need to cover there in the office. So we really appreciate your donation coming from your heart. I want to pray to God so God can multiply and you see the blessing. Okay?
Luis, could we have one more question?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Father Barrios, the United States, as you mentioned, likes to proclaim itself as the democratic freedom country of the world and lecture a variety of countries around the world on human rights. Here in Racine, and you'll be going to Milwaukee later tonight, this is the worst corridor in the entire history, in the entire United States for people of African descent, statistically for a variety of things, some in terms of actually semi-apartheid conditions. And it's a dual question in regard to labor rights as well. In the last 10 years in Wisconsin, there's been unrelenting union busting and austerity in terms of the attacks on unions. Can you just expand or maybe make a comment on the advances that have been made despite some of the numerous challenges such as the blockade in Cuba in regard to Afro-Indigenous rights and in labor and unions in Cuba?
Well, let me start by saying there is something very interesting with Cubans regarding racism, okay? What is also very interesting is that one of the few governments in Latin America, well, in the Americas, fighting against racism is the Cuban Revolution. It's not the only one, but you need to recognize that. But I have no idea what the hell is going on with a lot of Cubans that I know. They're very racist. In favor or against the government. Okay? There or here. However, most of the people, they've been educated, they've been transformed, that when you standing in front of me, you are a person. Stop looking at the color of my skin. Stop looking at my gender, my sexual orientation, my age. And you see that in the statistics that Cuba produces. Like for example, the issue of this past election, we ended up having 6 vice presidents with the new constitution. Because each one of them, they assign different responsibilities. These 6 vice presidents, 3 of them happen to be women. 3 happen to be men. 3 of them happen to be black. 3 happen to be white. You have a Congress where 60% happen to be women. And there is mandatory representation from different groups, which means that openly, if you are, let's say, for example, part of the religious community, you need to be in the Congress. If you are part of the young people, if you are part of the LGBTQ, okay, all the voices, we want to hear your voice, okay, in this particular Congress. And it's a very interesting project with the issue of participatory democracy. The one that we have here is more so-called representative. Okay? I'm always scared about that kind of thing. And also on top of that, we have the electoral colleges. You have that situation like how is that Hillary got millions of votes more than Trump, and you don't need a PhD to know that if you have $1 million more votes than this guy, you're supposed to win. No, that's not the way we do business here. Because in the 18th century, the ruling class say, what's going to happen if one day people wake up and they're going to vote against us? So let's find a way how to stay in power. Okay? In the Cuban Revolution, it's a people's revolution. Okay? And that is one of the things I always remember when they were interviewing, because in different locations we have people who want to become president of Cuba, but they live in Miami. They never been in Cuba, but they live in Miami. Okay? But they ask in the U.S., overthrow the government and send me there so I can become the president. And they all agree. The first thing you need to get rid is get rid of that constitution. And it's not, in my opinion, the best. I think the Venezuela is one of the best, with the 5 powers and all kinds of things. And I always remember when Hillary Clinton, after the coup against Chavez, say, they were asking, so why getting rid of that constitution? They say, oh, that constitution have a very serious problem. So what is the problem with that constitution? Gives too much power to the people. Let me see if I heard correctly. You are against a constitution that gives too much power to the people? Yeah, that's not supposed to be the way. Oh, that's very interesting. Because that's the way we function. Okay? We have problem. I was in Cuba 6 years ago, and in the countryside, 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up with a pain. They said, well, probably gases. They told me, well, probably gases, stop walking. It's not disappeared, it's intensified. They say, okay, something is going on. Oh, there's a medical doctor in this house. Let's go. They said, at 4:30 in the morning. Oh, that's why she became a doctor. Okay, so she knows. She needs to be ready for this. So we went there, we knocked at the door. Oh, she wake up, okay. So she did a physical examination. She said, okay, appendicitis, and it's ready. We need to run to the hospital. She called the hospital. We were driving probably 80, 90 miles per hour. It took up 1 hour to get there. That was countryside. When I got there, they were waiting for me. Okay? And the same question that everybody, after surgery, treatment, and everything, I'm wondering, so how much is? I always remember, I can see the face of that doctor. He said, why do always people come up with the same question? Is it free? These are people's rights. Why do you ask me how much is? Well, because I'm coming from the U.S. and that's a very question. Okay. So it's free. It's a right that people have. Yes.
I just want to say, I believe that if you want to write a check, it's for, you write to Message of Peace. Is that correct, Mary Beth?
Yes, if you write a check, Pastors for Peace.
Pastors for Peace, and do not write Cuba in the subject. Only if you want the FBI to visit you.
And is there a website?
You want to put it in a test? Do it. I do it with my students. I told my student, you need to do Cuban research for this particular class, do it with the computers in the college. You want the FBI in your house? Do it with your computer at home.
Is there a website for that?
I'm sorry?
Is there a website that we could donate also?
Oh yes, there's ifco.org.
You did say Pastors for Peace.
Pastor for Peace,
You
yes.
can write a check like that.
Yes.
Because I did before.
Yes, that's not a problem.
Cashed in.
The bank already knows because in some way IFCO became synonymous to Pastor for Peace and vice versa.
Yeah, I think it validates that it's legitimate.
But the name of the organization, IFCO, Interreligious Foundation for Community Organizing. And we have different projects, and one of the projects is Pastor for Peace. But in some way, Pastor for Peace became the name. That including the SBI, everybody, when they question us, are you part of Pastor for Peace? And when I want to play with it for the next day, I'm part of IFCO. So what's that? It's the same. Okay, but feel free. Okay?
Luis, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.